Hi friends, and welcome to our new episode. Today we are diving into a topic that often stays hidden behind closed doors, bitching. We are going to dissect what happens when a friend passes on the complaints of others but leaves out their own part. It's a messy situation, but one we can learn a lot from. Imagine you are part of a tight-knit group of friends. There is a laughter, shared stories, inside jokes that works. But today one friend, let's call him Bob, could not join. Perhaps he is busy with work, or maybe he is out of town. Whatever the reason, Bob's not at the gathering. The hours pass, the conversation takes an unexpected turn. Bob becomes the center of the conversation, but not in the way he might have wanted. The air starts filling with criticism and complaints about him. Some complaints are minor, such as Bob's constant use of outdated slang. However, some grievances become more significant. Perhaps it's about how Bob's habit of monopolizing conversations. These criticisms, though varied in nature, all share a common thread. Now let's fast forward a few days. One of the friends, the one who had quite a lot to say about Bob's flaws during that gathering, decides to visit Bob. As they sit down for a cup of coffee, this friend starts to spill the beans. He tells Bob about the complaints and criticisms that were made about him. He tells Bob about the petty grievances, the serious criticisms, and everything in between. But here is the twist. This friend conveniently leaves out one crucial piece of the puzzle: his own criticisms. He presents the scenario as an observer, not an active participant in the Biching session. He does not mention how he laughed along with the jokes made at Bob's expense, or how he agreed that Bob was often a party pooper. No, he carefully curates the information to exclude his own participation. This situation is a perfect example of the kind of bitching we are talking about today. The kind where grievances about someone are shared behind their back and the messenger omits their own involvement. As we will see, this kind of behavior can have far-reaching consequences on friendships and the mindsets of those involved. Let's explore why this kind of behavior can be harmful. The first and most obvious damage it causes is a fracture in trust. Bob, who was oblivious to the criticisms and complaints, now knows that his friends have been speaking about him behind his back. This revelation can be a shock, and it shatters the image Bob had of his friends. His mindset undergoes a significant shift, and he begins to view his friends through a lens of suspicion and disappointment. As a result, Bob may start to pull away from the group. The friendly banter, the shared moments, they all start to feel hollow to Bob. He might feel like an outsider, an object of ridicule in his own circle of friends. This distancing can affect the overall harmony and the balance of the group, leading to an air of tension and awkwardness in what was once a comfortable space. Now let's look at the friend who relayed all the criticisms to Bob. From his perspective, he might think he's acting out of good intentions. By leaving out his own criticisms, he believes he's painting himself a better light. As someone who did not participate in the Biching session, he might see himself as a kind of good guy or a reliable ally of Bob. But let's dissect this a bit. In reality, what this friend is doing is creating an atmosphere of discord and imbalance within the group. By presenting himself as a good guy, he's manipulating the situation to gain Bob's trust. This manipulation can cause Bob to view this friend more favorable than the others, creating an uneven dynamic within the group. This favoritism can lead to further tension among the friends. They might feel betrayed by the good guy, feeling for revelation the Biching session to Bob. Or they might feel resentment toward Bob's for his newfound closeness with this good guy friend. These feelings can fester, leading to arguments, distrust, and in some cases, the disintegration of the group. So as we can see, the consequences of this kind of bitching are far-reaching. They extend beyond the initial feeling of betrayal and can have a long-term impact on friendship and group dynamics. We are not just theorizing here. There is actual research that supports these observations. Tracy Valancourt, a respected psychologist from the University of Ottawa, conducted a study that sheds light on the impact of this kind of behavior, which she terms as indirect aggression. This kind of aggression isn't always visible because it isn't direct or confrontational, but it's equally, if not more, damaging. Valancourt's research showed that Indirect aggression can lead to serious emotional harm. It's not just about the immediate feeling of hurt or betrayal that someone like Bob would experience. The harm goes beyond that, seeping into an individual's self-esteem and self-image. They might start questioning their self-worth, wondering why they are the subject of such criticisms. This could lead to feeling of insecurity and inadequacy, which can in turn affect their mental health. Moreover, indirect aggression can isolate individuals. Once Bob knows about the beaching session, he might start distancing himself from his friends. This self-imposed isolation can lead to loneliness and a sense of exclusion. It's not easy being on the outside, looking in, especially when the group you are looking at once was a place of comfort. And it's not about Bob's isolation. The friend who relayed the criticisms by setting himself apart as the good guy is also isolating himself from the group in a way. He's creating a division, placing himself and Bob on one side and the rest of the group on the other. This division disrupts the social interactions within the group, creating an us versus them dynamic. In addition, the rest of the group, once they realize what the good friend has done, might feel betrayed. They might isolate this friend, leading to further divisions within the group. The group dynamics gets disrupted, the friendship strained, and what was once a cohesive group becomes fragmented. So as we can see from the Valancourt's research, indirect aggression or bitching isn't as harmless as it might seem. It's a form of emotional violence that can cause significant harm, disrupt social interactions, and even break up friendships. As we have seen, bitching, especially of the kind we discussed, can cause serious harms on emotional and social level. But what about its impact on productivity? Well, it's important to understand that productivity isn't just how efficiently we can do tasks. It's also about our mental state, our motivation, and our engagement with the task at hand. When someone like Bob experiences the negative effects of bitching, it does not just affect his relationships, it spills over into other areas of his life, including his productivity. The negative emotions, the feelings of insecurity, the self-imposed isolation, all of these can drain his mental energy. He might find it hard to focus on tasks, to motivate himself, to engage with his work or studies. His productivity can take a serious hit. The so-called good guy friend too might experience a decrease in productivity. The tension, the guilty of causing harm, these can also affect his mental state and in turn his productivity. Additionally, the disruption in the group's dynamics can affect the productivity of the entire group. If this group were a team at work, or a study group, or any kind of collective working toward a common goal, the tensions and divisions can impede their progress. The cohesive and collaborative environment needed for optimal productivity gets replaced with an atmosphere of mistrust and discord. In fact, a study conducted by Dr. Vanessa Pothier from the University of Melbourne showed that while small, regulated doses of venting at work can act as a pressure valve and be beneficial for team dynamics and productivity, when it crosses a line, can become harmful. When bitching becomes a source of division and emotional harm, rather than a means of stress relief, it can negatively impact productivity. So it's clear that bitching, while it may provide temporary relief or satisfaction, has far-reaching implications. It can harm individuals, disrupt social interactions, and significantly reduce productivity. It's important to be aware of these consequences and think twice before participating in or encouraging such behavior. Remember, productivity thrives in an environment of trust, respect, and open communication. And these are values that bitching, especially of the kind we discussed, directly undermines. To foster a productive environment, whether it's in a group of friends, a workplace, or any social group, we need to replace bitching with empathy, understanding, and constructive feedback. That concludes our episode today. Thank you for joining us, and we hope this discussion has given you food for thought. Let's strive for healthier, more positive interactions in our everyday lives.
Worldwide interests. Every interest. Follow here. Subscribe for interesting and full of knowledge videos.